Now, if MSNBC was, into real journalism, they would have asked Elon Musk in regards to Twitter what they are going to do about restoring the account of the great Tony Bruno, the man with the Twitter ban, who is joining us now, audio only this morning, boys and girls.
You're a crumb creep, lush coward.
Exactly right. What up, yo?
Wait a minute. Audio only. I'm sitting here smiling into the camera. What's going on back there?
There's something wrong with you. Oh no, we see you. Yes,
no.
Video.
There he is.
There we go. There we go.
I've been in hair and makeup for the last hour getting ready for this appearance.
Tony Bruno joins us by video. I love it. YouTube.com/@1210 WPHT.
What's going on, man?
Between listening to Elon Musk and John Fetterman, I'm completely out of my mind today. Holy moly. Those pregnant pauses, I just had to have an abortion during the last break.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Tony Bruno firing his fastball at 8:22, kids.
I'm coming out of the gate. I'm like Pat McAfee going to ESPN and saying that I won't be allowed to curse, and that's okay. My show will be exactly the same as it's always been.
Well, Tony, politics in Philadelphia remain the same as it's always been now. Over 52 years since a Republican will be the mayor in Philadelphia. But the good news is, last night, Helen Gim did not win. In fact, Helen Gim will not even come in second place. In fact, I think Helen Gim and Doc Rivers will be having an exit lunch this afternoon.
Let's, do we have taps for Helen Gim? It's Helen Gim. Come on, Manick. Gim. Helen Gim,
spelled
by the way, will
G-Y-M.
now be working at the 24-hour fitness in South Philadelphia to get out of our faces for the rest of the time.
Yes.
Thank God she lost. Listen, Sherelle Parker obviously has experience. She's been in the United States, Pennsylvania Senate. She's been respected in the community, so that's good for her. And Philly's way behind the trend here. Having a black woman or a woman mayor, it's not unusual anymore.
Right.
So good for her, because my concern, why would David O., why would he waste another dollar trying to run? Why don't they just cancel the November election? Is there any reason to have an election in November for David O. against Sherelle Parker?
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about wastes of money.
Yeah.
Why even bother?
Yeah.
Think of all the stamps that'll be saved. Think of all the wasted money being sent in. This is probably the easiest lock since Doc Rivers was fired yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Exactly right. We'll get to, let's get to that right now. So, once again, you can't get over the hump. You can't beat the Celtics. You have the league MVP, Tony. You have a two-time scoring champion. And I know Doc Rivers is going to be the scapegoat, and he, justifiably, I think he should be fired. But your thoughts on Rivers, and also why Joel Embiid seems to avoid criticism in this town?
Well, I don't think he avoids criticism. I just think that, I said this last time we were on, before this Celtics series even started, that the concern in Philly and the fans is Joel Embiid needs to win an MVP. He's the MVP. And we worry about individual accomplishments, and Embiid wins the MVP. And on the night that he wins the MVP, that's when they start this series. And so to me, it's all about individual accolades. Listen, Joel Embiid had a great season, but we really see now the real MVP is Jokic.
Yep.
And so, so what's the big deal? Jokic is now in the Western Conference Finals. They beat the Lakers in Game 1. Does that mean they're going to win? I don't know. All I know is, we put up with the process. We put up with the coaches. We put up with Brett Brown. People talk about, what's Brett Brown thinking right now? He had nothing to work with.
Yep.
And my buddy Kevin Kincaid over there at Crossing Broad had a great column about how the 76ers haven't had a legitimate win in the playoff. Forget about Game 7 losses. Forget about not being in the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001, when Allen Iverson had a team of ragtag guys who took on the Lakers. They haven't won any legitimate big series of any kind in over a decade. I mean, they beat the Bulls, but there was all kinds of things going on in that series.
Yep.
So to me, you look at the Sixers' past history, despite all the lotteries and all the draft picks and all the machinations, they haven't won a meaningful series in almost 2 decades. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, Tony. I mean, they are as void of big wins as the Republican Party in Philadelphia has been for mayoral races now, which, is interesting. And I want to get your thoughts on this from a media standpoint, because I'm not sure if every single Tony Bruno fan is aware that before you obviously had the unbelievable run in sports talk radio, you're a journalist. You're a Temple journalism guy, and you were doing journalistic stuff early on in your career in the 70s and 80s. Yet now, 2/3 of Americans, they say journalists are now advocates and are not unbiased. You just in general, your thoughts on where journalism is today?
Totally agree. The amazing thing, and it hurts me because, as you mentioned, I was a political science major, journalism background. My job was a reporter at WFIL in the middle of the night, and I covered a nursing home fire in 1973. And as a young reporter at age 20, I won the Philadelphia Press Association Award for Best Spot Radio News Coverage in Philly. So I've covered elections. I remember on election night going to the Rizzo elections and all the other things. I remember Andrea Mitchell and I were covering elections in Philadelphia back in the 70s. So news is where I started. And then obviously, living in Philly and doing news and sports, a lot of the news departments started cutting back. And so I moved into the sports direction because Philly was a hot, happening sports town in the 70s. With the Flyers and the Cups and the Sixers winning a champion, Sixers being good. Actually, they were bad there. They had that 73 team, the worst ever. But, the Phillies were on the rise. The Eagles brought in Dick Vermeil. So that 70 to 80 swing really got me focused more on the sports part because I saw there wasn't really a lot of sports talk radio. So I chose to move in that direction, and that was a pretty good career decision. But when it comes to news, I still consider myself a journalist, even though right now I'm not out covering stories, because really you don't even need to be out covering stories. If you're a sports guy or a sports woman, you sit at home, you watch the post-game news conferences live.
Yep.
You know everything that's said. You know what the coaches and the players say. So it's a tough world. That's why there's all these podcasts, because journalism, to me, the citizen journalists, I believe right now, are doing more work to cover stories than the so-called legacy media, which does nothing but sit back and regurgitate talking points from whichever side they favor. I mean, look at this whole Durham thing. You would think if you listen to one side, if you listen to one side, oh, yeah, Trump was exonerated. If you listen to the other side, which, by the way, includes all the people who lied about everything in these investigations, now getting a free platform to say that the Durham investigation was a nothing burger, well, who are you going to believe?
Right.
People have to make up their minds for themselves, and unfortunately, we live in a world where you have to take sides on everything, and everything is based on politics, and I'm sick of it. I actually don't even, I'm sick of, that's why I'm glad my Twitter ban is at 59 days today. We didn't get the breaking news on this. Let's get the breaking news, Tim. Tim. I almost called you Tim.
Yeah.
What's going on
Some
back
people,
there?
Some people do call me Tim in a different circle.
Well, exactly. So, no, listen, it's hard because I can still see my tweets. Well, I can't see my tweets because they're not being permitted. But 59 days later, I'm still banned. I'm hearing Elon Musk. Let's be honest. You look at Twitter, I can still see it. But tell me that there's no free speech on Twitter. More people are on there, just grinding up nonsense and spitting out nonsense on one side or the other. It's basically an open cesspool. And the fact that I'm banned from there, when I look on there and see the stuff that people are printing, it's an open sewer. And people love open sewers this day, especially in Philadelphia when it gets hot and the trash men go on strike again. And like New York, and you go to big cities in the summer when the trash hasn't been picked up. Like, go to New York any morning at 3 a.m. and walk around when the poor trash people are out there cleaning up the streets. It is an absolute. It's like the slums of New Delhi. I mean, that's what it is out there.
Yeah, speaking of the sewers, the Twitter sewers are a special sort of sewer for sure. So you haven't gotten any answer for, you guys have not been able to contact anybody at Twitter and get any human interaction in response?
No. I don't think anybody is in the Twitter office anymore. Forget about the people not working from home. People aren't working from anywhere for Twitter. And look what happened. Look at Meta yesterday, right? Facebook. They just got rid of 10,000 more people because the NFT world, non-fungible tokens if you're scoring at home, apparently that's not a big deal for Zuckerberg and his Facebook Meta people. If it wasn't for the Oculus, Facebook would have nothing right now except people going on and telling you what they did for their birthday and where they're going this weekend and what their aunt's doing. That kind of stuff.
Hey, don't throw any shade at Zuckerberg, Tony. Did you see his jiu-jitsu flip? I mean, he's a bad dude. Yeah, apparently Mark Zuckerberger's a very highly trained mixed martial arts artist. Apparently he took some people to task. I think right now he'd be the favorite over Elon Musk in a duel.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but both of these guys. Let's be honest. These guys are geeks.
Yeah.
Elon Musk doesn't look like a geek, but he's a geek.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. All these guys, and there's nothing wrong with geeks, nerds, or what are the three ones? There's geeks, nerds, and dorks, right?
And dweebs.
Have you done a whole show yet on what's the difference between a geek, a nerd, or a dork?
And a dweeb.
610.
That's a four. That's the top four. That's the Mount Rushmore.
Give us your Mount Rushmore of stooges. 610. We'll take your calls.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
You're a crumb
we
creep.
all celebrating. Has Helen Jim said anything? Has she said anything this morning? I hear she's down now saying that the 76ers and Doc Rivers should be fired again, and they should not build the new arena down there in the Chinatown area.
That is correct.
That's her legacy.
Hanging out with our man, Tony Bruno, for another 10 or 15 minutes.
You're a crumb creep, lush coward.
Exactly.
Thank you. By the way, I did vote for Frank Rizzo on a ballot that was 13 ballots that were still sent to me. I still kept getting phone calls here in Florida from the Pennsylvania Democratic Party wanting to know who I'm going to vote for in the election. I said, I don't live there anymore, but if you want to send me 13 ballots like you did in 2020 to try to get me to vote in South Philly, I'll gladly fill it. So I just did a what do they call it? Not a mail-in. I did one of those provisional ballots. So I wrote in Frank Rizzo for all of my old school friends in Philadelphia who remember.
You're a coward.
When law and order mattered in Philadelphia. And guess what mattered in all these elections? Law and order and public safety.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Number one
Who
issue.
Knew?
What a concept. So who do you think is more happy, Tony? Sherelle Parker to win or Jim Kenney to finally get to exit?
Well, Jim Kenney's been in the exit mode since he came out last year, remember?
Exactly.
And he said, well, it's not fun being the mayor anymore. Some days I wish I didn't have to do this. He should have just resigned that day.
Yeah.
Right? He should have just resigned. And then would anybody know the difference if he had left and come down here to Florida like he used to do during the pandemic and come down here in the sunshine? While everybody was suffering in Philly, locked in their homes, and he was going to Maryland for crab cakes and Florida with his gal pal, to get away from the city.
Yep.
He's a smart guy. They don't stick around and suffer in their own. Well, I don't want to use that word here.
Exactly.
We are still a live show.
Yeah. It's a PG-13 audience, Tom. Come on, man.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it funny, too, how Democrats, they love to bang on Florida, but when the chance to move or go there comes, they can't get there fast enough?
Exactly. Now I got a boat, by the way. I don't know if you saw the story.
I did.
Robin and I bought a used boat.
Right.
We had to drive all the way up north, all the way up to Englewood, not Englewood, California, Englewood, Florida, which is north of here, right near Venice.
Yeah.
We picked up this 23-year-old boat.
Wow.
And we were out there, and the dolphins were following us. What were you doing last week when I was out of my boat near the Gulf of Mexico having a pod of dolphins following our wake?
Watching the
How
Sixers
is your
lose
week
another
going?
game. That's what I was
the
doing.
Sixers lose, and I'm there worrying about Doc Rivers.
Uh-huh.
Are you kidding me?
So you got a boat that's 23 years old. So we're talking about back when the Sixers had Allen Iverson. So how does that thing ride? Is it still in good shape?
It rides as good as the Sixers did back in 2001 with Allen Iverson. I mean, at least the boat gets there. It didn't win. My boat won't win any races, but at least it got in the race.
Yes.
I had a boat growing up in Philly. When I lived in South Philly, I had a boat. And I'd go down to Margate, and that was my summer home because I couldn't afford a summer home. So I bought a boat, and my kids grew up on it down in Margate. And I'd go over there to Memories and see Jerry Blavitt, and I'd go over to Maynard's and get 4 beers for $1 on a Saturday afternoon. That's what we used to do when you lived in the city and you had a boat, and that was your summer home. So I love boating. I haven't had a boat since 2001, so I'm like the Sixers.
Yeah.
Except I'm finishing my trip. I'm advancing now.
Exactly.
I'm advancing now. I'll be in the Gulf of Mexico next week getting some grouper. And if you haven't had grouper. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. Let me get your thoughts on this story. This was a fascinating story we talked about yesterday. The Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover model issue Issue. That's a combination of issue and addition. I just created a new word here on Kayal and Company. Martha Stewart, Tony Bruno, 81 years old, the same as Joe Biden. And Greg Stocker was very enamored with what he saw yesterday.
I was impressed. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. I think that's awesome. It's better than putting a dude on there pretending to be a woman, with all due respect.
Well, don't worry. They've done that because now they have 4 different covers.
I mean, no, Martha Stewart's amazing. She's still lucid. She's got more endorsement deals now than she did in her heyday when she had the weekly show.
Mm-hmm.
She's blowing up. She's doing stuff with Snoop. How can you not love Martha Stewart?
Yep.
Martha Stewart for president. I think the Republicans should put her up there and let her run and get Snoop as the vice president. And I think everybody will agree on that ticket.
Hey, a Martha and Snoop Republican ticket, Tony.
I love it.
So all the left-wingers out there, take your diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you can shove it with that ticket, pal. How about that?
Damn right. We're trying to help this country, not put it back, setting us back in chains or whatever hell the Democrat Joe Biden's using this week.
Exactly. Also on the woke front, now this is where I had to rip conservatives yesterday because the big story on Monday was how a Miller Lite beer ad with a biological female went viral and was labeled to be woke and ridiculous. But it came out in March, right around the same time the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light commercial came out. And now all of a sudden, 2 months later, everybody seemingly notices this and says this is the equivalent of what Bud Light did, where I'm saying, no, completely not, because Bud Light used a dude pretending to be a girl. Miller Lite, who, let's face it, they cater to guys. But, there are still some women that drink light beer, and they used a biological female. I didn't understand the outrage from conservatives on Monday about this story, Tony.
You're right. I think it was because I didn't know. I saw that video, and I thought it was funny, and then I saw the outrage, and there's outrage about everything. It doesn't matter. But using the woman make beer, and the women were making beer in Mesopotamia, and then using the poop word and everything, it was kind of funny, but it was, is that going to change? Let's be honest. The last time Miller Lite invented light beer, remember, they were the first. It was just called Lite.
Yeah.
Miller Lite was smart enough to come up with the first light beer. They had the greatest commercials using athletes, celebrities. But my favorite, and I got to meet the two women, was the Miller Lite women who were wrestling. Remember that one? And I met those two women, Katana Baker and another woman, who are arguing about, less filling, tastes great, less filling. Remember, those were the two camps. Tastes great, less filling. And then they have all the guys in the bars and John Madden brawling. And then they have these two beautiful actress women who are like fighting in a pool in a shopping center or at a restaurant. Yeah. And they're out there and they're ripping their clothes off. And then at the end, somebody says, "Wow, what a great commercial. All we need to have them is kissing," and then they cut to the scene where they start making out. Yeah, I mean that's when beer was beer, and men loved women, and women loved men, and everybody was living happily ever after. When commercials made us laugh, now they make us cry and make us get angry. Just make us laugh. We already know what the beer are. You're gonna drink. That's why the whole light beer thing is insane. Drink whatever you want. Who cares?
Hey, well, you know what? You know what beer companies could learn? They could learn from insurance companies, because insurance is one of the most boring things you could ever.
Exactly.
But yet you've got Geico and Progressive, and they do these hilarious commercials, and they're not trying to be political about it.
Exactly. They're just trying, because, if you sit down and say, hey, you're going to save 15% on your car and home insurance, everybody knows that. Yeah. So now you got to try to attract people to somehow call or go to your website, because that commercial really triggered me to go and see what my rate could be. They're not telling you about, they mention insurance, but you're right, it's about making people laugh and remember what product you're pimping. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, no question. Tony Bruno with us here every other Wednesday on Kayal and Company. So last Thursday, Tony Bruno. Actually, you know what? Before we get to last Thursday, let's get to last Wednesday. I want to get your reaction, because we haven't talked to you about this on the Trump front. We did mention Trump in the Russia probe with the Durham report. But your thoughts and takeaways from what you saw from that CNN town hall that really resembled a Jerry Springer-esque television show between Caitlin Collins and Trump. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, I didn't see it, of course, like most people didn't see it. I don't know what the ratings are. I know Fox's ratings have tanked since they got rid of Tucker. But I'm not in that world of worrying about, I thought it was a smart move by CNN, and you can see, even their own people were criticizing the company. So that's the good thing about working at CNN. You can criticize the company, and if you're like Oliver Darcy or all of these other slugs, who barely exist there. Oliver Darcy's now their main media guy after they got rid of Brian Stelter.
Right.
These are the people now that are, telling everybody what to think, and they can criticize their own company. Big deal. Who doesn't criticize their own company anymore?
Yep.
Seriously. You criticize your own company,
Oh,
don't
Greg
you?
Stalker does it every morning at around 6:05.
That's not right. Stop.
It's not my style. And, it's never been my style to rip the hand that feeds me. But right now, I'm the hand that feeds me.
Right.
So I rip myself every day. You have to rip yourself before you can rip somebody else. That's my motto. You know what I mean? If you're the hand that feeds you, you better take care of it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. This is phenomenal. Hey, by the way, you could be watching us on YouTube.
I want to thank John Fetterman for helping me call my bank yesterday and stand up to them and saying I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. How dare you only give me 0.1% interest? Thank you, John Fetterman, for putting those bankers in their place by asking them the tough questions, by demanding answers that we all want to know. Isn't it unbelievable that they can be bailed out by the very people who are making money in a position where they should never even be allowed to have a tour of the U.S. Senate, let alone sit there asking questions that no one had any idea what he was asking?
Speaking of Fetterman, how about the schedule release?
The Eagles!
Yes, the Eagles. The schedule release, I like it. I got the Eagles going 13-1. Which is going to be pretty hard to do because they play 16 games now. So I'll have to write in the last games that I'm still up in the air on, Nick. I know we don't have a lot of time to break down game by game, but I've already looked at all the locations where they're going, and I've already booked all my tickets. I've rented Airbnbs to all those exotic locations that the Eagles would be attending and heading to this coming fall.
There was nobody in the history of sports talk radio that relished breaking down game-by-game predictions in May for games that would be played in November or December than the great Tony Bruno.
But I stole that. Now, that wasn't an original idea. I got that from Mike and the Mad Dog in New York, and that's what they would do every year. The schedule would come out, and, when there's not a lot going on and you can't talk about the Yankees and Mets and the and the Jets and the Giants 24/7 and the NBA teams, you got to break down the schedule. Give them a win, give them a loss, dog. And that's what we would do. So we would sit there, look at the schedule, and then predicate the schedule release on how many wins and how many losses. So that's an ongoing tradition unlike any other. Like the Skins game used to be on Thanksgiving weekend back in the day. On golf, yes.
Damn right. I got to tell you, Mikey, it's a tough spot. You're coming off the big redemption game.
Robin has her win and loss record now. What is the final, Robin?
I don't have a win-loss record. I do have a scheduling update. Just a quick note that the In Tonight program Friday night has been moved to Thursday night, 7 p.m. in case anybody wants to watch it on nofilter.net.
There you go.
Are we allowed to do a shameless plug for my only?
Absolutely.
We shamelessly plug everything for 4 hours a day on this show.
Exactly right.
Yes, that we are going to a special event that will be announced shortly after. I mean, it's a big newsworthy event that we will let everybody know about on Saturday.
Down to Naples, baby.
Naples, Florida.
And by the way, if you think Twitter is back to normal, what's trending right now is Wet Wednesday. I don't want any kids out there to go. Wet Wednesday is one of the things trending on Twitter, and dudes. That's what's dudes. Wet Wednesday and Fetterman are now trending on Twitter. if you're scoring at home, and if you are, congratulations. It's a Wednesday morning.
Exactly.
By the way, do not look up Wet Wednesday.
No, don't look it up.
Don't
look it up.
Don't look up Wet Wednesday.
Just keep scrolling and keep swiping.
Yes.
Exactly right.
Oh God.
All right, so Robin, Dawn has the Eagles going 16-1 this year when we did the schedule breakdown last Thursday. Robin, are you going to go 17-0, or do you see a few losses on the schedule?
Oh, I definitely see a few losses.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So you got what, like 14-3?
I'm looking more like 13.
Robin wants to go out on a boat today. That's all she cares about.
Must be nice.
You're going to need a bigger boat, dude.
Nah, the boat's perfect. It's 21 and a half feet, and it's funny because it's a Sea Ray 215.
Yeah.
So I even got the area code, the old school Philadelphia area code 215 on the side of my boat. And the name of my boat was already there from the previous owner, Liberty.
Liberty.
What better name can be? You know, guys put women's name on there because, you know, boats are always associated with females.
Yep.
Liberty. That's the name of the boat, and that's where it's staying.
Well,
Okay.
it's Lady Liberty, right?
It's Lady Liberty.
Wow.
Robin will be doing her Statue of Liberty pose as we head out to the Caloosahatchee River later on this afternoon.
I'm looking for another dolphin encounter. That
Yes.
was amazing.
Dolphins, baby. I want to swim with the dolphins. At least we're not swimming with the fishes.
Right. And when we talk about dolphins in New Jersey, sadly, it's usually a negative story behind that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, but that's a different story for a different day.
And by the way, happy birthday to Trent Reznor, 58 today. Are you going to be playing a block of Trent Reznor in the 9 o'clock hour?
It depends on who made a donation.
9 Inch Nails in the 9 o'clock hour.
All right, Bruno, good stuff. As always, buddy, we appreciate you. Enjoy your boat.
Newcastle, Pennsylvania's own Trent Reznor. Don't you forget about that in 9 Inch
Exactly.
Nails.
All right.